Hey you guys, it is me, Laura. I'm a homeschooling mom to 3 kids, ages 10, 8, and 3, and I thought I would share with you today a little bit about some of the big changes and transitions going on in our homeschool and how we're kind of transitioning out of one methodology into another. So for the past few years, we've been doing kind of a rotation schedule with our homeschool where we do science and then we do history and then we do science and then we do history and so on and so forth. So our primary materials have been the God's Design series for science. We've also mixed in some real science for kids. And for history, we've been using mostly America's Story from Master Books. The way I've tended to tackle those subjects is that we will read from the lesson and then I will try and find a read aloud that we can kind of do along with history. After we do our reading with science, we would typically watch a video that goes along with it. And that's kind of been what we've done, and that's worked well for us. But I've been wanting to transition more to a unit study type model where I can do a lot more, tie in a lot more subjects, and just do a lot more with it. I have one child who really, really loves history a lot and one child who really, really loves science a lot, and I felt like we just haven't really been getting deep enough for either of them in either of those subjects. So I've been moving more to a unit study type model. Now, for a while, I was still thinking like, okay, I need to follow a timeline. I need to make sure we cover all of the material in the science book or in the history book. So how can I do unit studies within that? So I went through the rest of our history book and I matched it up with the rest of our science book to see what overlaps and what could be studied together, and did kind of these pseudo unit studies and kind of planned them out, but they're not really full unit studies. Not everything matches up all the way. And I've really just decided that I want to go full hog into unit studies. However, I want to create my own unit studies, and I want to create really good ones. And I'm kind of picky about the books and the things that we use. So for me to just throw together a good solid unit study, it's not something I can do. It takes a while to plan. So what I've decided to do is to take this year, and I have never, ever in homeschooling history have I planned a year in advance out. I am very much believe in dynamic homeschool, where homeschool is constantly changing and growing and meeting the needs of the kids where they're at. And I find that over the course of a whole year, there's a lot of change and adaptation being made. So I just don't do it. But this year, I made a very, very loose plan, and I mean very loose, just for me to kind of wrap my brain around this idea of unit studies. And also, when I made this, I was still thinking along the lines of covering all the information and getting through all 3 of the America's Stories books. The more I think about it, the more I'm realizing that covering every point in history or covering every point in science isn't actually necessary in the early years. But I think I'm also seeing more the beauty of interest-led things and unit studies and kind of diving in deep. And for our family where we're at currently, literature-based unit studies are just really, really awesome, where you have a really great book, and from that book you learn all sorts of amazing topics and ideas. So right now, as I'm transitioning, I'm doing kind of a hybrid, because I'm trying a bunch of new stuff and I expect there to be flops. I expect it to take a lot of work to put stuff together, and I expect there to be some big changes. But when all that's going on, homeschool still has to happen. So my plan right now is to take a chunk and use the plans that I've already made, kind of the unit studies that I'm putting together based on history and science, and we'll do that, and then we'll do another unit study that's child interest-led based. Then we'll go back to the other one and kind of cycle through. So right now I have planned for us to do in June and July, and these are very, very rough estimates. Some of these might take longer. I might need more things. I don't know. But we're going to be doing a unit study on emergency workers and the Chicago fire, and we're also going to pull in some history. So in America's Story, we'll actually be talking about the Chicago fire there. And in God's Design for the physical world, we're going to be using the heat and energy thermal energy unit. And I'm going to pull all that in. And I'm still iffy on the read aloud that we're going to use for that. I'd like to have some, because this is going to be not just fire, but all kinds of emergency workers. So I'd like to pull in maybe some police and things like that. So I have a few ideas, but I'm still trying to find a really good book that I think is quality literature that fits the needs of our family, and it is hard to do, let me tell you, hard to do. So I'm working on that. And then I have for August and September, this comes directly from our America Storybook. There's some chapters on Thomas Edison and Alexander Graham Bell. So we are going to read a Heroes of History book. These are the Heroes of History biographies. These the kids really enjoy. I really enjoy them. And they're really great biographies. So we're going to do the one on Thomas Edison. I know this is not Thomas Edison. I don't know if we're going to do the audiobook yet or if we're going to do the print, but we're going to read through that. And we will also be learning about electricity and inventions for science. That's kind of what we'll be doing for that. And so for a unit like that, what I'll do is I'll go to the library and I'll put together a book basket that has various topics that would relate. So in this case, things about inventions and technology. It would be things about Thomas Edison or Alexander Graham Bell or the telephone or the light bulb or any of those things. I'll go through ahead of time and look and just pick a bunch of stuff, and that will go in a basket that the kids kind of leaf through and pick what they want, and I'll read with them some and they'll read some on their own and spend time kind of exploring the topic in ways that they want to. And then I'll also have, so from this book, I will pick copywork passages, and I will also use it to pick vocabulary, and I will use it to pick out some grammar concepts that we're going to focus on as well. And I might even use it to reinforce some of their spelling or reading or what they're doing in that way. And I'll also come up with some science experiments, hands-on activities, craft, art, and each week we will have a writing prompt based on something from this unit study. So that's kind of how I pull that together. But the next one, if I can find a good book that I really love for the main book, like the literature book, the next one will be Birds of Prey in September and October. We live somewhere where there's loads of birds of prey. That's a great time of year. There's a program on a mountain that we actually used to live right beside, where you can go and sleep overnight. They do bird banding to kind of keep track of they do songbirds and they do birds of prey, but if you camp overnight, that's when they catch some of the birds of prey, like owls and things like that, so you can help them catch them and band them. And we also have the Birds of Prey World Center in Boise, which is another great place, and the kids have been loving seeing the eagles in our yard and other birds of prey. We've got bald eagle that visits us all the time. So cool. So I would love to do that. If that doesn't work out, I might do something more like survival or something for my kids, but this is one that I've picked out because it's something that I think that my kids will particularly be interested in. That's the only reason I've picked it out. It's because I think it would be really interesting for them. So I don't know if that one's going to pan out, but that's what I've got kind of scheduled in. And then for November, December, so this came from going through, again, America's Story. There's 2 chapters on Helen Keller. So we are going to use that to talk about Helen Keller. We're going to talk about our 5 senses. We're going to talk about sound waves and light waves and the way the eye works and all of that kind of stuff. I'm super excited about the book that I found that we're going to do for this unit. It's going to be Song for a Whale. I love this book. It is so good. I really wanted for this unit a book about someone told from the perspective of someone who was blind or deaf or something like that. Perspective of someone who was blind or deaf or something like that. It's called Song for a Whale. It's by Lynn Kelly, and it's about a girl who's deaf and her family doesn't do very well at speaking in sign language, and she's in a normal hearing school and nobody else really speaks sign language, and she feels very alone. She loves working on radios, and she loves when she can feel the vibration and know that it's working properly. She learns about this whale called Blue 55 who sings at a different frequency than all the other whales, so his migration pattern is weird, and she just falls in love with the idea of this whale and wants to create a song for him that he can sing. And her grandmother, who is also deaf, plays a big role in this book as well, and they get into some trouble together. It's good trouble though. And this is such a good book, so I can't wait to do this for that unit study. Of course, we'll have lots of books about Helen Keller. I love that I'm going to be able to really include my 3-year-old in this one. 5 Senses is perfect for that. So that's kind of what's coming up then. And then for January and February, I don't know what we're doing yet. It's hopefully going to be just a fun unit that is based on something that one of the kids wants to do. I got from them a big list of ideas of things that they want to learn about. I think I've gotten like a medieval unit, there's been presidents mentioned, but I have them all written down. And so I'm specifically starting by looking for really good read-alouds that I could use as a base to kind of draw the unit study from. So I'm reading like mad. I'm reading so many books right now, trying to find good ones to kind of help drive those unit studies. So that one's kind of open and free right there. And then the next unit study is in March, and that we're going to be talking about America's Victorian Age and American immigration. Again, the driver for that was our America's World book, and we're going to be doing the read aloud starting from Seneca Falls, I believe, which is about immigration. And we're going to be learning about ocean movement and sea floors. So we're really going to learn a lot about immigration. And I thought that this would be a really good time to tie in the ocean and travel, because everyone came here by boat, basically. Yeah, like everybody came here by boat. So we're learning a little bit about the ocean movement and sea floors. And this is from a different God's Design book, but I think it will be fine. So I'm going to try to tie that together. That one I haven't done a whole lot of work with. It needs work. I need to work on it. And then the last one that we have, and then in April, I have another unit study based on America's story, which is chapters about poverty, slums, strikes, kind of once immigration got here, like how bad the conditions were, and all the things that people needed to do, and kind of that transition into the American dream, and kind of all of that, like looking at life in the cities. Because a lot of this, you talk about American history, you talk about the country, but this is really looking at the cities and the results that immigration had on that and all of those things. So I have a book by Avi, I think it's called City of Orphans, and I'm going to pre-read that to make sure that it's okay for my younger kids, but I hope so. It looks like a really good book. And we're going to be learning a lot about like medical advancements and diseases and all these sicknesses that were spread around and all of that. So kind of a medical science portion of that. And then in May, if we have time in May, we'll do another fun unit study, or we'll use that time to catch up. And so that's kind of my plan for the year. And doing it this way is going to take us 2 years to get through America's story. Number 2. So we started it at the beginning of this school year. We're about halfway done now. And so at the end of this current school year, we will finish it. So I may decide that if I'm liking unit studies and I'm able to kind of put them out quickly enough, we might just move over to fun unit studies. But in the meantime, I'm probably going to do this kind of back and forth between unit studies that I'm writing and putting together kind of pseudo unit studies with our science and our history curriculum. And so, you know, this seems kind of wishy-washy. Why am I sharing this? What am I doing? I think one of the things that is important to me as a homeschooler is realizing that homeschooling is very dynamic and it changes. And there's no one right way to do it. And you might find something that's really perfect for your homeschool now, but it might not be perfect for your homeschool now, or for your homeschool 3 months from now. And that's totally fine. And to adapt and change and making plans is totally fine, but being willing to change those as your kids change, as your circumstances change, just as everything adapts and changes. And I'm finding that this unit study model, the way that I'm pulling things together, is working really well for our family. And I really want to do a whole lot more that is interest-led. We just finished up a space unit and the kids really loved it and got into it in such a great way. And I'm fortunate in that one of my kids really loves history and one of my kids really loves science. So no matter what we're doing, one of them is usually happy with it. But I find that they can both converge in such a fun way when we do these unit studies. It's easier for me to include the toddler instead of her just tagging along. I can more easily plan things for her that go along with the unit study. So this is kind of what I'm doing. So who knows, a month from now, things could be different in our homeschool. We might have dropped this all together. We might have embraced it in a different way. But that's kind of what we have planned. And because I already have so far planned ahead with America's Story and some of the God's Design science curriculums, they're going to be pretty easy for me to put together. The hardest part will be finding the books to read, which is so important. And those just are not going to be built out as much as far as unit study goes, and that's totally fine. But I really want to focus as much time as I can on really building out and making what I picture in my mind as the ideal unit study for these fun units. So that is what I have going on. I would love to hear how you put together your science and history. What kind of programs are you using? Do you loop them? Do you do unit studies? What do you do for yours? I would love to know in the comments below. And as always, be sure to leave me any questions you have, and I will talk to you later. Bye.